Hi, I'm FrAnthonyHannon from Viam, Pacis, and this is to prepare his way. I waiting a little bit there just to seems like if I start too early, it cuts off the introduction, so might have lost that. So I just finished the live stream. Oh, it was probably 15-20 minutes ago, called More Practical Spiritual Tips, and I said that I would come back on to talk about the Emergency Act inquiry regarding the Freedom Convoy last January and February, and what's going on there. And I said, please God, I'll talk about some other things that are coming out, other truths that are coming out that people didn't know about. So I'm just going to try to open this so that I can see the live chat, because I hope to be able to engage with the viewers. Okay, so anyone who's watching now, apparently we have 3 or 4 on now. If you can hear me okay and everything seems to be okay, why don't you give a thumbs up and maybe say hello in the chat if you like, and then I'll get into the things that I thought I could talk about, and then if you have any questions, you can type that in the chat as well. So I want to go back to 2 videos ago, the state of the church today in Canada, state of the Catholic Church in Canada. Because someone left a comment there, and I just want to give credit where credit is due. Oh, thanks, Michael. So M. Hayek asked, if you had to guess, what is the mass attendance rate and percentage in Canada among baptized Catholics? Well, boy, oh boy, I'm not in a parish. My understanding is that after the lockdowns and now that things are, opened up for people to go to Sunday Mass, my understanding is that not everyone has returned for various reasons, or they've gone to other parishes, or for whatever reason they're affected by the the fear that's going on in the world, or got used to not going to Mass, or maybe some of them are sick or whatever. But before all of that, my guess is that in English-speaking Canada, amongst baptized Catholics, the Sunday practice rate was about 15% and dropping. That's what I think. So that's what I think about that. I mean, I had made reference, I think in that video, I had made reference to the founder of Communion and Liberation, which I did some more reading about that. Apparently that was formed in 1954 by by Catholic priest. And but I remember reading a long time ago that he was observing that the Sunday masses were well attended in Italy. over 90% or 99% or whatever. But he said that it's not translating into their daily lives. So he was thinking that their children had, they're going to make a choice. Either they're going to follow their parents' example and just go to mass on Sunday and not have that affect their life through the week, um, or they're going to abandon the faith, saying this is all hypocrisy, or they're going to think, well, there must be more to it, and learn the authentic faith, and then put that in practice. So I would say, of the Sunday, that the Catholics that are going to mass now, they want they have faith. They want to put their faith into practice, and they want to worship God. It's very, very important to them. So um, I don't know, like, what is worse, that a 95, 99% or 100% attendance, but they're going there for social reasons, or networking, or 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 whatever, and it's not really having an effect on their life, or having 10 or 15% go to mass, and but really believe, and really be sincere about it. um I mean, I think the reason I say, like, it's dropping is because more and more Catholics are not even having their babies baptized. So there you go. So Michael Bartlett sounding good. Alan Smith, hello, Father. Hello, Alan. Uh, thanks for letting me know you're watching. Okay, so for some of you, who might be watching this later, or those who are watching it now, you may be um, aware that there's a commission of inquiry to get the facts regarding the Emergency Act that the Trudeau government in Canada enacted, declared, and then the subsequent freezing of bank accounts, the trampling on citizen protesters with horses, and the all that came down at the end of the Truckers' Freedom convoy last February. And my understanding is such an inquiry is obligatory as soon as that act was declared and put into action. Then automatically there's going to have to be an inquiry after the fact to get all the facts, and from my perspective, it's about seeing if there was any proper justification for calling this Emergency Measures Act. And some of you may know that this is the first time that Canadian government has used this. It is compared to the War Measures Act, formerly the War Measures Act, and which I think was used maybe twice, so during World War II and during the FLQ crisis in 1971, I believe, but early 70s. And so what was this justified? So there's all sorts of witnesses. The commission is, and what's interesting about it is, here in Canada, we don't get to have public access by video of court proceedings, of trials. And hello, Kathy, by the way. And so this is not a court case. It's not a trial. Nobody is on trial. Although we're anxious and hoping that Trudeau would and his collaborators would go on trial for this. That's not what this is. It's really kind of a fact-finding thing. So there's a commission, and there's someone acting there I don't know if he's called a judge or not, a commissioner, I think. I don't know, whatever his title is, who's acting like a judge. Hey, Mary from Ireland. Right on. Welcome. And um, anyway, so they what's really neat is that there's all these witnesses. Some have volunteered, some have been called upon, and then there's all these lawyers who are trained and skilled at cross examination. So all sorts of things have been entered into the record as evidence, and then like it's a trial, and then more things are added into the evidence. More things are coming to light as these lawyers are cross-examining or asking questions, I guess, examining and then cross-examining these various witnesses. This is supposed to go on for something like 6 weeks or something, going on till the end of November. And I I wish I had more time. I'd love to watch the whole thing. I can't watch everything. Very few people could. I don't think it's what I'm supposed to do, but you can get. It looks to me like some fair kind of a summary and reaction from Rebel News. So YouTube channel, I think it's called Rebel News or Rebel Media, and every day they are live streaming the entire thing. I guess it's from the what we call the CPAC feed, who also has a YouTube channel, and you can watch it like that. There's others who are following it that are broadcasting it as well, simulcasting it. The YouTube channel called War Campaign, a YouTube channel called Maverick Media or Maverick News. But now I'm finding that I can just go to Rebel News, and I can just like after the day's over, the next day or whenever I want, I can go to the last hour of that, and they are giving their commentary. And based on the days that and the interview and the witnesses that I did see, and then on the commentary from Rebel News, I thought that they were bringing up the same observations that I had. So there you go on that. So there's various lawyers from various interest groups. So for example, like I said, the commission has their own lawyers, and they kind of do the first interview of the witness, getting out the facts, and then there's various examiners who are given 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not sure how that works. Probably depending on how many want to cross-examine. So the federal government has lawyers. I believe the Ontario government has lawyers. The Saskatchewan government has lawyers there. A group of Ottawa citizens who felt that the truckers were a huge inconvenience and a terrible thing, they have a lawyer asking questions. But the Freedom Convoy or various groups on the freedom side of things also have lawyers, so they're asking all sorts of questions. So who has been witnesses? There's not exhaustive list over the first week, but the mayor of Ottawa was a witness. His chief of staff is a witness. Acting deputy chief of Ottawa Police was a witness. I think a superintendent of the Ontario Provincial Police, and I think some others. And I find it really, really interesting. Now, the point of this is to really justify, from the government's perspective, justify calling the Emergencies Act. And what's really good so far is that the police and others, by the cross examination, are showing that what was done, well, except for the freezing of bank accounts and which is stealing, it's a terrible thing. and the, they could have gotten what their objective was to get the protest to end. They could have done that without the Emergencies Act. So I think this is coming out very clear. Later on, probably towards the end, Justin Trudeau will be a witness, and we'll see. We'll get to hear all of his justifications for it and everything like this. But for anyone who is interested in it, the truth is coming out. Now, as a priest who went down there to bless them, to encourage the protesters, to let them know that God is with them, and blessing them and praying for their victory, and in that sense being a participant, but also a live streamer and kind of reporting on it. But really, my purpose going down there was to bless and encourage, and to minister in that way, in that very, very simple way. And I did hear some confessions down there, and and anyone who watched the live streams there, and they're still available, of course, on this YouTube channel, you could see how good everyone was to me, and I think I only had one negative incident, and that was a crazy person when he saw me with my yellow diesel can. And at the beginning of that one video, that was at the day after the police had went and stolen all of this gasoline, both at Coventry Road and downtown Ottawa. So like tons of us, we just went down there with empty gas cans and diesel cans, and we had a great time doing that. So but when this one guy saw me, started cursing and swearing, started chasing me and stuff like that. And there was a little bit of a scuffle. I don't think he hit me. It maybe looks a little bit more violent than it was, because I was trying to protect the video equipment. That's right. So he was upset that I was filming him or something. But it was such a good atmosphere down there. It was and oh yeah, and was it retired RCMP chief or something, or maybe not chief, but operations guy, like really high up. He said there was nothing violent. It wasn't. It was a cross section of Canadians, including grandmothers, and it really was. It was. I described it at the time as uh, 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 so much fun. It was like a cross between Canada Day celebrations and Ottawa's Winterlude, or Winter Festival, but way better, because it was all free food and everyone was friendly. It wasn't just kind of walking around, what's the next event that's going on or something like that. It was it was just so much better, spontaneous. There was no real leaders. We could say there's a variety of leaders, perhaps, but it really was a grassroots thing. Tamara Leach, who's very well known now. The only reason, as far as I know, that she became a kind of a figurehead as an organizer is because she started the GoFundMe page. GoFundMe, yeah. And as a matter of fact, at the time when I was going to donate, I clicked on the link from I think Canada Unity, but wherever it was, and I saw that it says the money is going to Tamara Leach. I never heard of her, so I called one of what I would consider the organizer, but his name hasn't come up with it, and that's good for him. But I called one of my contacts in the freedom movement, and he told me, "Oh yeah, she's legitimate. Don't worry, you can donate there." And she just started the GoFundMe, but they never expected it to go so high. It raised over $10 million before the government stole that, or yeah, I'm gonna say stole it, but before the government put a stop to to it, and I don't know if people got their money back or whatever, but um, but the government did use that information to seize a certain number of bank accounts. I don't know exactly how many. I believe it was under 100. But the thing is that uh, yeah, Tamara Lich and the others, they didn't expect to get, like, when it was $1 million. They on the page they said we've hired some accountants and da, 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 putting it into a trust, all this type of thing, because there was way more money than they ever they would have to handle. Um, but then it went up to like $10 million. Anyway, um, it's good to see that the truth is coming out, or at least different perspectives are coming out. I can understand that if a truck was parked right in front of your house, um, and honking horn and stuff like that, how that would be, um, stressful. One thing that people should understand, and this is coming out as well, is that when the trucks were coming into Ottawa, um, they were directed where to go. The Ottawa police directed the traffic and told them where they could stop for their protest. So, if there are trucks in front of residential, apartment buildings and whatnot, this because the police directed them to go there. And the acting deputy chief, or one of the deputy chiefs, because one of them was Steve Bell. He hasn't testified yet, I don't think. But at the time he was an acting deputy chief, and then later he became the chief after Chief Slowly resigned. And I think Steve Bell is still called the interim chief. But anyway, the other chief, I think her name is Patricia Ferguson. She she was testifying that they thought it would be a weekend protest. Even though we all knew everyone was coming and saying, no, we're staying there for the long haul. As a matter of fact, the Sunday night, and you can look back at one of my live streams, you can see there are trucks starting to move out. And I was down at Confederation Park, and some were saying the police are getting the trucks to leave and stuff. So some of the young people there, they ran up, and I followed up, and I saw trucks leaving, and the one Ottawa police, I was asking him what's going on, how come they're leaving, and he was kind of rude to me, which is unusual for the Ottawa police. And but in retrospect, he's probably concerned about safety. He just wanted people off the road so this truck could get out. And anyway, it didn't take long to figure out that some of the truckers, that was their plan, to stay just for the weekend, and they were going back to work. They were going and delivering what they needed to deliver as truckers. And but others were coming in, so there was this kind of rotating thing. So it took me a little while to understand that the police also, they directed people to the Coventry Road site, which was the baseball stadium, and other places. And so in Lower Town and other places where the trucks were, they were in front of residential homes because the police directed them to go there and said, you can stay here. And but it did seem that from Deputy Chief Ferguson, that they really, despite other intelligence, um, uh, to the contrary, that they actually thought that it would be a weekend event and that would be it. And by the way, the Ottawa police, during all the freedom rallies and everything I've ever been involved with in Ottawa in terms of protests or anything like that, March for Life in particular, they've always been very, very good. And as a matter of fact, even when I was the priest at St. Catherine of Siena Parish in Metcalfe, when we had a Eucharistic procession for almost a whole kilometer, I had just gone in to talk to the constable, like maybe the week before, just to say kind of what we're planning. And they had a few police cars there, and they had just asked me, where are you going, what's the route you're going. And they were so good in cooperating and making sure everyone was safe, and allowing to do this. We didn't have a permit or anything, but that's the way the Ottawa police have been. They've been always good. And like that other video that I did said they called the police on me, when we left the coffee shop. There was two police cruisers outside, and they just smiled and nodded at me. They, as they didn't come in to give me a hard time. They just waited for us to leave, and that was because we didn't have certain documentation that at that time you're supposed to have if you're supposed to eat in a restaurant. So anyway, Ottawa police have been really really good, but they didn't realize it. Then they started talking about it as an occupation instead of a protest. Well, my thing is, where does it say that the constitutional right to protest is for a limited period of time? Where does it say that? So it's still a legal protest uh, as far as I'm concerned. But whatever the case, legal or illegal, um, the Emergency Measures Act, so far, I think there's a lot of evidence coming out that it was not necessary. Now, one of the live streams that I was on there, you may recall, if you saw it, I was down at one of the truckers' camps. So this was down at the corner of Booth and Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, formerly known as the Ottawa River Parkway, right across the street from the or kitty corner to the War Museum. And oh, Marilyn, yes, I do. I remember you. I think we formally met at the February 14th rally in 2021. So anyway, I was down at that camp, and that was my favorite camp. It was just such good people. They welcomed me so well. And as you recall, I was wearing a white surplice and a purple stole, so everyone knew that I was a priest. And so I'm not just some guy blessing some people. I'm actually a priest. And so I'm down there. There's great food. There's a nice warm tent that they had down there. They had a trailer with their comfort station, we could call it, the porty potties. Potties was not just plastic potties, but had lights and heat and everything in there. And yeah, best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had in my life was down at that camp. And that was where I had the very good interview inside, and I got to sit in the truck with Sarah and her husband David, I think is his name. And anyway, I was down there one afternoon, and I also met two Orthodox priests down there. I was so happy to see them, and all of a sudden, someone came who said they were the block captain for that area. And what was interesting was it was so like it was so unorganized but organized, because these are I have so much respect for these truckers, because they came prepared, and they were doers. They set things up, and if anyone needed anything, and it would be theirs. Like they thought of everything. And but some of them didn't even know who this person was, and her name slips in my mind right now. I'd have to go back to look at the live stream. But she kind of got up on the soapbox, so to speak, and tried to gather people around. And I asked, "Can I live stream this?" And she said, "Yes, of course, yes, please do." So I live streamed the whole speech, and she was saying that there was been negotiations going on with the city of Ottawa, and that we just want to get a sense of that you're going to be behind this. We want to, as a goodwill, we want to move some of the trucks from some of the residential areas up to the Wellington Street area, and also, with you guys, down the Parkway. And it was so some of the truckers had questions. You can catch all that on that live stream. And it was really cool. It was the truckers were saying, "What about the children? We don't want the children to have to wear masks anymore. And some of the truckers are like, we're not negotiating, we're not budging. And so there was, a diversity of opinions there. And I wasn't sure if this lady was a controlled opposition or not. And then at the end, they gathered, so they gathered around. We're going to take a picture, and I have the history books. And okay, so I'm in that picture with all these truckers. It was quite an honor to be there. Well, in this inquiry, we're hearing the details of that, and that was actually a real thing, and what was happening, and the timing of it all, and everything like that. So, as far as I'm concerned, the truckers are seen in a very, very positive light. And well, the truth will come out, and it's really interesting to see and hear how the dynamics of the logistics for the police. That Ottawa Police, OPS, Ottawa Police Service, were in charge of it all, even when OPP would come, or RCMP. The OPS were the ones, controlling everything. It was their jurisdiction. And what has come out is the benefit of the Emergencies Act was a few hours, saving them a few hours of time of swearing in certain police officers that didn't have jurisdiction in Ottawa, so they had to do a swearing in ceremony, saving a few hours, and that was it, and that was it. So yeah, I think it's looking really, really good. Um, I'm learning about these. What do they call it? I think it's called PLT. Uh, I think it stands for Police Liaison Teams. So I knew from like James Top, and that there were police liaison, right? So again, with James Top later on June, the last days of June, coming in to Ottawa, you know, uh, across the country, the various police services, assisting them. And then when they got into the boundary of the city of Ottawa, which includes quite a rural bit, so it's the last few days of their march into Ottawa. The Ottawa police were there. They were talking with them. Everything was arranged in advance for traffic control and everything like that. And so I'm learning from this inquiry some of the inner details of that. And I think the deputy chief was even using the words, I could be wrong about this, but like infiltration or something along that. So there were like kind of official police, on the ground, trying to find out, who are the organizers, who do we talk to, and the whole thing is for public safety and peace, but also gathering intelligence. So it is kind of a mixed bag, and I certainly wonder, at all the freedom rallies that I've been to, who who are the undercover agents, right? Who are the undercover agents that are there, and and some are not undercover, but they identify themselves as police. But so that was all very, very interesting. Okay, BA says is having trouble to hear the sound. Do people want to give a thumbs up or something if they or give a comment? Can they hear the sound okay? Michael, can you still hear the sound okay? If you're still watching? I have heard sometimes people say, okay, Marilyn gives a thumbs up so she can hear okay. So I'm not sure, BA. Sound is still great here. Alan says hears everything perfect. Okay. Okay, so this is what I hope comes out though, because we've got that one lawyer or team of lawyers for the Ottawa Citizens Coalition, or I think it's something like that. And these are Ottawa citizens who, um, who are against the protest, who were inconvenienced and whatever. And uh, like I say, I don't doubt that that was an inconvenience. Now, some people say, well, if you, that's part of living in Ottawa, you're going to have protests and things like that, and that's true. But I don't think these individuals realized the gravity of what was going on, and they couldn't see the big picture like you and I can see the big picture. We can see the globalist agenda. We can see the deception of the scamdemic, and and but a lot of people they didn't see it that way. They've bought the narrative. They really believe that this is a globe that we're undergoing a global plague like human history has never seen before. Um, for many of them, they felt a camaraderie with with other citizens, other human beings, uh, not only in Ottawa but all around the world by wearing what I call the outward sign of submission. Um, uh, and and you know taking their injections, um, because they saw this whole effort as a very good thing, and they were working together and they were part of something bigger. I think that would be very much their mindset for a lot of people, a lot of individuals, and so they didn't understand what the truckers were doing, or what other for all those millions of Canadians, um, across the country. They don't understand. They don't see what we see. So because of that, they it was just like, what are these truckers doing? And they're ruining our lives. And they were afraid. I think there were some individuals, certain percentage, that were genuinely afraid, that they really thought that this is some sort of like a third world military coup or something. That that the government's going to be overthrown, and then our whole Canadian society is going to collapse. Because they cannot see the deliberate damage the government's been doing, and they cannot see the collapse of our society already. They just couldn't see it. So that's, I think, the lens that they saw the truckers through. Uh, uh, but here's the thing. As that team of lawyers cross examines and is really trying to present the case that the Emergencies Act was justified, and that this was some sort of illegal occupation, and because they're glad it was gone and they don't want to see ever that happen again, right? Um, but what is not coming out yet, I don't think, is the tremendous love and support that the truckers had and all the protesters had from so many citizens of Ottawa, including those who lived right downtown and were hearing the horns honking, and all of that. As a matter of fact, I saw one resident, downtown resident, who said that the only inconvenience that she had was not with the truckers. She had no problem with the truckers. Was didn't bother her at all. But it was when the police closed certain off ramps of the main highway going through Ottawa, the 417 in Ottawa. We call it the Queensway. The police closed certain off ramps to try so that people, to discourage people and any new trucks or any new protesters from going downtown Ottawa easily. I never had a problem. I grew up in Ottawa. I got off the Queensway way early, and every time, so I never had a problem with that. But she was this woman was describing how she could go to work normally in 15 minutes, and it took her. She was late for work. She couldn't get around because of the of, of the traffic blockings of the police. So she wasn't upset with the truckers, but with the police and with the city, who was trying to, and their what they did. Um, and also there were so many people. I mean, you know, the truckers, and there were many down there who didn't have big rigs. Because these big rigs, a lot of them, it's like a it's not a recreational vehicle, but it's like that. They have a bed, they've got a fridge, they've got a way of cooking food. It's really a home away from home for some of them. That is their full time home, and and it was explained to me later from some other truckers that their diesel tanks are so big. There was not a It really was never really an issue. I had asked, do you want me to bring some diesel down and stuff like that, and one trucker that I inquired, he said, actually, we're all fine. And they had logistics going on like that as well. So I brought two empty ones down. I had left one in my truck, carried one around as my essential accessory that day, and and uh, I figured, well, if they need some, I'll just go to a gas station and bring it back. But a lot of the protesters going down there who traveled across the country were there in pickup trucks or cars, and there was an elderly man there, um, elderly. Maybe I shouldn't say how old he was, but late 70s and 80s. He was there in a small, I believe, like a small station wagon type of car. It wasn't even a minivan, I don't think. Might have been a minivan, might have been a caravan. I can't quite recall. And he was sleeping in there. He didn't have the heaters like they do in those big rigs, and um, and he was sleeping in his car in the freezing cold. And there was another guy there. He had a pickup truck that he had made kind of into RV, and he had a little wood stove in there. And but for a lot of them, they were sleeping in minus 25 degrees Celsius, and and they were sleeping in their cars. But for a number of them too, Ottawa residents took them into their homes, and there was a great coordination, a great, I would say, love and hospitality shown by Ottawa residents to allow truckers to go to their home to get a shower, to get a hot meal, to sleep over, um, to do laundry. And they all had that. They all kind of worked that out, and it was a wonderful thing to see. You know, in my opinion, uh, the mayor of Ottawa didn't have to do what he did. He could have, knowing that all these people were coming to Ottawa, he could have opened his arms and said, "Okay, everyone, like it or not, we've got all these protesters coming down here, and well, we may as well take advantage of it. So all you businesses and restaurants, just you might as well open up, and let's show our fellow Canadians how loving and hospitable we can be here in Ottawa." He could have done that and could have brought in all sorts of revenue for the city of Ottawa, but instead decided to close everything up. Um, I can talk maybe a little bit more about my experiences there, about some of the attitude of the police, but I think I'm going to leave it for now, um, just because I had um, I was in a position where police didn't know that I was there. I wasn't there. I wasn't like hiding or anything, but I was in a position where um, um, I could hear the interactions of police, because they didn't know I was there, and I just kept my mouth shut and listened. So I have, uh, but I don't think it's necessarily representative of all police. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it, but it was definitely where where these police, when they were interacting with each other, they were kind of saying, "How's it going out there?" And and some were like, it's boring, it's boring, nothing, because they wanted. My impression was they wanted to roll heads. These few police that I heard, and there was nothing going on. There's nothing going on. So, but anyway, um, so that's my take on the Emergency Act inquiry. It's not a trial. No one's, but the what's coming out, the information that's coming out, I think is very very enlightening about how police operations work. Um, and it's so good to see the truth of the convoy coming out. So, meanwhile, I said Emergencies Act inquiry and other facts on other topics. Other things that are coming out are the adverse effects of the experimental injections that have been imposed on all around the world. And there's a famous doctor, I think from England. I think his name is Dr. John Campbell. Forgive me if I get that wrong. At the beginning of all the lockdowns and all the COVID stuff, I did find him. I did listen to him for a little bit, watch a few of his videos. He's been highly recommended by all sorts of people who relied on him to go through all of the numbers, But early, I think it was in March or April of I think it was March, might have been even February. I think it was March of 2020. I did a video called "Most People Are Terrible at Mathematics," where I was just trying to demonstrate how the odds of dying from this are minuscule, and that most people don't have any appreciation of how many people die um, on a daily basis in Canada and around the world. And there are many who and have followed, like, for example, Dr. Denis Rancourt, um, um, is it William Briggs, the statistician, and many others who have demonstrated that all-cause mortality was not significantly higher during this so-called world pandemic, and any increased deaths could be easily accounted for by the measures that the government imposed on. For example, lockdowns, moving people who were sick enough to have hospital beds out of the hospitals and into nursing homes, locking down the nursing homes so that no volunteers could go, and the nursing homes were already overcrowded. So yeah, that was a perfect storm for people who were so sick that they needed a hospital bed. And so, and then of course we see the increase of substance abuse and suicides and whatnot. So this doctor, I think Dr. John McDonald, just recently, and I found this out because I decided to check out Anne Barnhart's blog site or website, which I don't check on a daily basis, but I like, she's been, I think maybe about once a week or something, maybe not quite, not regularly, but frequently enough. She's doing all these memes, and I really get a kick out of that, and I always learn something from Anne Barnhart. If you want to go there to her website, it's called barnhart.biz, BARNHARDT.biz. And anyway, she provided a link of a video of I believe his name is Dr. John McDonald, of a couple days ago, where he was going through the rates of infant mortality that have doubled or tripled compared to what they would normally would be in 2021, 2022. So on that, it appears like this doctor who has been going along with the narrative to a large extent. I'm just gonna be that I stopped watching him because I could tell he was he couldn't see what I could see and maybe you could see. And he was very political, for example, immediately trashing Donald Trump. And so his bias was showing. What was really, really neat in this video a couple of days ago was, as he's going through this, he realized that the coroners are not getting involved in these infants' deaths, because if they had died, even a few weeks after birth, they were calling them stillbirths. And he was obviously, as he's going through this, he does his little check mark stuff, check. And he was astounded. So it seems like he's waking up, and there are many, many others who are waking up. So the last I saw, I wasn't able to look at it in great detail, but people are sending me stuff that it used to be like common knowledge or open, out in the open, that there were 34 doctors. I think it was in Ontario, but certainly in Canada, who died, unexpected deaths. And now apparently it's up to 80 and counting. And more people are going to be realizing that these injections are neither effective nor safe. And this isn't. Yeah, Marielle says isn't up to 80 Canadian doctors now. That's my understanding as well, Mary. The truth will come out, and unfortunately, it's really, really tragic. The increase in death. See, the globalists, they have achieved their goal to drastically reduce the world's population. I haven't checked the World Economics, not the World Economics, the Worldometer website in some time, but they do this, and I'm not even sure how reliable their statistics are, but they do this kind of rolling thing of how much the world's population is increasing. Well, the rate of increase is slowing down, and I don't know when it's going to happen that it's going to turn right around, because there's going to be people who want to have children won't be able to, and more and more young people dying. I do think that is going to be the case. So it's kind of related to the emergency after inquiry, but is a different topic, and that's the truth of everything that's coming out. And who was it? Was it? I think it was a European Union MP, if they call it that, a representative from Croatia, I think, but it could have been from somewhere else, who is saying all the governments, they deserve a refund from the pharmaceutical companies. I think in particular Pfizer, but others, perhaps, because they bought a product from them that they said was safe and effective, that obviously isn't and wasn't. So they sold them lemons, right? So they deserve a refund. So that's a big wake up call. That's a big surprise. That's good. Um, Archbishop Vigano, uh, you know, uh, he's asking the Vatican to reconsider their whole COVID approach, and he does another great letter exposing everything, and that would be um, that would be um, my prayer as well, but not the Vatican, but every single bishop who has encouraged and said this was an act of charity to take these jabs, um, and all as the truth comes out, the only way that bishops and priests are going to regain or get any credibility back is to admit that they were duped. They can say we were duped, just like so many others, and but we won't do it again. We won't be duped again. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? And that's my prayer. But I'm running into people still who they just can't get their mind around that that this has been a scam. They just can't. I don't think they can imagine. It's hard. It's gonna be hard for a lot of people. Um, Now I started watching. I haven't finished it yet, but I started watching an interview uh, that Patrick Coffin did with I believe he's a psychiatrist and a physician, um, uh, who published a book recently called "Overcoming Fear Addiction." Let me just type that in. And so I really recommend you look that. You can find that by going to Rumble and searching for the channel called Patrick Coffin. Um, Fear addiction. Oh my, I'm not getting it. I'm gonna have to go to Amazon, I think, and search the book. But as I have been talking about it as in terms of codependency, he's talking about it in terms of addiction, and he talks about how I'm just going to put fear addiction. See what comes up. He's putting it in terms of addiction. He's putting it in terms of as a okay, it's called Freedom from Fear, and you'll know why I like it as well. He says 12-step guide to personal and national recovery. He's an American. His name is Mark McDonald, McDonald, Mark McDonald, MD. Freedom from Fear, subtitled A 12-Step Guide to Personal and National Recovery. I've read some reviews on it. They're positive. The only negatives is that it's a relatively short book, but that may be a positive. It says it's 141 pages, if I'm not mistaken, and I certainly plan on ordering it. And he so what I've listened to so far is that he explains, for example, the wearing of what I call the outward sign of submission is an anxiety reliever for people, much akin to people who smoke cigarettes. And I will make this connection because when I was growing up in the 70s, because I was born in 1962, in the 70s, um, it seemed like to me like most adults smoked cigarettes. Um, and certainly in the early 70s up to mid 70s, there was smoking in department stores, maybe even grocery stores. Some of you who are older may be able to confirm that. But in a grocery store, you go into Kmart, there's ashtrays and stuff like that. Um, and this Dr. McDonald, another McDonald, it seems, Mark McDonald, he says that uh, it's much like that. It's an anxiety reliever. And my observation is, well, since so much of society accepted tobacco smoking anywhere in anyone's house, there was no probably well, no doubt. Um, if you invited people over to your house, they didn't ask, "Do you mind if I smoke?" It was you bring ashtrays for them. It was a given, and so um, but look where we are now. That's completely flipped. I think it's definitely a minority of people, at least in first world nations and in Canada anyway. It's a minority of adults who smoke cigarettes, and if they do, it's certainly something that they're very aware of not wanting to offend others and going outside and all of that. And so these things can be turned around. Like here in Canada, there's no mask mandates, but you still see a significant amount of the population wearing masks, even alone, even outside, even in their car alone, and in shopping centers and stuff like that. Um, Now, uh, the uh, the chief medical officer of public health for Ontario, Kieran Moore, who was the chief medical officer for public health in my health unit in the area that I live, and this was the first health unit in Ontario to introduce the mask mandates. And you may recall a video I did on that talking about, well, I did a few videos, but the very first one, when I was down by the lake and kind of making fun of it because they were saying that you're exempt if you have a hearing impediment, which, you know, I said because we all know that we hear through our nose, and right. So, but I guess it was kind of convoluted. But I mean, if someone is dependent on lip reading, then but it should be everyone around them is exempt then, right? If I'm hard of hearing, take off your mask, please, so I can understand what you're trying to tell me. But anyway, Kieran Moore is dropping hints, or well, explicitly saying that people should still be wearing masks, and that they should uh, and that if case numbers go up, then mask mandates are definitely a possibility again. Well, we're entering into colder season, and yeah, Marielle says certain people still have to get tested 2 or 3 times a week and wear masks depending on their job. It's still insane. Yeah. So the question is, if they bring back these mandates, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? What are the bishops going to do? What are the priests going to do? And I would hope that the bishops say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We're not standing for it. I hope that's what is the stance of many, many, many individuals across Ontario, across Canada, and across the world. And I don't want to encourage people to be rude or anything like that. But on an emotional level, when I hear they're going to do mask mandates again, I'm thinking, are they going to try to close the loopholes on exemptions? Because there's like 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 some bishops did, said even though the province allowed exemptions, they said no. If you want to go to mass, you can't. There's no exemptions for masks, right? So, um, you know, are we going to be able to say no, no, not again, never, no, and just like, if I have to say I'm exempt, I will. If I have to, play the game and be nice and polite, but especially the men, I really hope that that men get some courage and say no, no, I'm not doing that. And my position has always been that as a as a faith leader, as a moral leader, that I must not give a bad example, and I must not cooperate with a lie. So that's my principled stance on wearing the outward sign of submission. It's against my religion. I shall have no false gods, and that is a superstitious bowing down to a false god of the new medical religion or something along those lines. So there's a few other things on topics, and then oh yes, and then it was yesterday I think that in Canada the Prime Minister made his announcement. I think the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, was right behind him, saying that their new law is now in effect, that it is illegal to buy, sell, or transfer, and I think transfer ownership, yeah, buy, sell, or transfer ownership of a handgun in Canada now. So they're not confiscating handguns, but they are basically saying if you don't have one already, you can't have one legally. This is very problematic. In Canada, we have some of the strongest gun control laws in the world. And to own a handgun, to own any gun over, I think, 500 feet per second, so that would include air guns beyond that, you have to have a gun license with all sorts of um, background checks and uh, and taking courses um, to own one, and then all sorts of regulations in terms of transporting, in terms of storing and transporting guns. And handguns, very, very, very strict, so that it can basically only be from your house to the to the gun range, and you can't stop on the way or anything like that. And I believe that there's a certain level of gun license where some can carry it, but in general, that's what it is. And what this is it's a misguided thing, because this is targeting law-abiding citizens, and it's not going to stop most murders, most killings with handguns are gang related and in the what we call the underworld, right? There are many ways to kill a person. If someone wants to kill someone, but in terms of the gun murders, mostly this has to do with gang and mob and drug related things. It's not the it's not the people who have gun licenses. And all this is going to do is feed the um, the underground black market of guns. That's all it's going to do. Consider a legitimate business, you know, that was selling uh, handguns and and long guns, and they've also outlawed. This is a little bit of old history, old news, but they've also outlawed all sorts of long guns as well, um, based on just their appearance in many cases, and um, so Martin, is the reception? Uh, am I blurry and things like this? I might be moving around too much and the camera's not getting in focus. Yowie says, I thought most in homicides the killer knew the victim, that is family, but I may be wrong. Yeah, I mean, there's domestic disputes and this type of thing. But like I say, like if someone wants to kill his or her spouse, there's all sorts of ways they can do it without a handgun. um, but But anyway, if you consider a business that was selling firearms to people who have licenses, and this is a business, this is a legitimate business for hunting, for target practice as a hobby, um, and in Canada we don't have the same laws or enshrined constitutional like amendments or anything like that, and um, so self-defense, you can't, you're not supposed to own a gun in Canada for self-defense against other human beings. I can have a gun though for self-defense against bears, right? So if I'm out in the woods, legally I can carry a gun even if it's not hunting season for my protection, but not for protection against other human beings. So it's totally a different mindset here in Canada. But like I say, legitimate businesses selling firearms now, they're the products that they can sell have been taken away from them. Well, what does that mean? That means to sell or purchase a handgun in Canada will require going on the black market. So the biker gangs and whatnot, hip hip hooray for them. They've just increased their business. And I'm not saying law-abiding citizens are going to go to the black market. I'm just saying that you know if that's the only way a person can get a firearm, that's the only way they can get it. So, and it's the exact opposite the mindset that the government has regarding cannabis, right? And other drugs as they try to liberalize more street drugs. And it's the exact opposite, saying, well, we're going to take business away from the black market. And now there's a cannabis shop. I don't know, a small town might have 3 or 4 of these cannabis shops. I don't think they're that busy. I think they may be having some trouble unless they're also operating on the black market, um, because there's still the illegal drug users, illegal drug dealers, and my understanding is their product quality is a lot better than these government regulated shops. So anyway, I don't partake in that type of thing. So, but I'm just saying that, on the one hand, they say, well, we're going to decriminalize um, drugs, but then we're going to criminalize this what has been a legitimate business when it comes to firearms. So I don't know. Is that enough other topics? Um, I did praise Archbishop Vigano again on his most recent letter and appeal to the Vatican. I think he's really on the ball. Wherever he's getting his information, or whoever's working with him, or just on his own, um, like we're on the same page on pretty much everything. So okay. So anyway, does anyone have any questions or anything like that? Or I think I've been following the live chats pretty well. Yahweh is saying, do y'all realize that in California, there's a law now against false information? That is legal censorship against medical professionals, and they can take my license for my opinions. Well, here in Canada, I mean, I know doctors who have had their medical license taken away, or I know of doctors. During the lockdowns, I'd say, hey, if you want to come and visit me, uh, you can't wear a mask, and you gotta shake my hand. And some people said, oh, I better not go then. And so that was one way of screening people. And then I'd say, oh, are you willing to get tested before you come? And if they said, yeah, I can get tested before I come, then I said, sorry, you can't come. So anyway, who knows? Maybe they're gonna try more lockdowns and everything like that. I don't know. A couple months ago, I was talking to Randy Hillier, and he said that he doesn't think they're gonna try that. I mean, let's face it, they're moving on to bigger things. We've got a huge potential of hot World War III, including possible nuclear stuff going on. We've got, because of the bad decisions of our political leaders, this is going to be a terrible winter for most people, and for all sorts of people in Europe, I believe, also here in North America. Um, and they've got other ways to make life difficult for people with their agenda. So, okay, I don't know. Hope that's not too tinfoil hatty for everybody, but what's that meme, or what's that saying there about conspiracy theories are all we were used to be conspiracy theorists, but until they come true. Okay. Well, we still have about 25 people watching. Does anyone want to engage with anything in the live chat? And I hope that was good. It's 20 after 11 p.m. here. I'm very blessed because I can have mass whenever I want tomorrow morning, the 30th Sunday in ordinary time, and but I do kind of plan on having mass early in the morning. But okay, well, thanks for tuning in. I hope it was helpful in some way. Uh, an opportunity to engage a bit. I still want to. I will do a dedicated video soon about this book right here, Much Ado About Corona, a dystopian love story, and because there's a character in there that is modeled on me, which is kind of fun. So I talked to the author, John C.A. Manley. So if you wanted to order that book, I do recommend it. It's a fictional novel. It's a way of kind of seeing different sides of what was going on during lockdowns and during the beginning of all of this stuff. and it is kind of a nice, um, a nice um, kind of distraction by looking at something that's kind of realistic. And in there that there's some chapters, you know, where the characters are at a Catholic mass, and I had some the author consulted me quite a bit on that, and so I'm very pleased. Okay, so there you go. Long enough live stream. Thanks again for everyone for tuning in. Know that you're in my prayers at every mass. I'm remembering everyone who watches these videos, and I'm very grateful to you and anyone who sends a contribution to Viam Pacis. I really appreciate it. You can look in the description on how to do that. I do want to get off of PayPal for all the reasons that most of you know, and I will be looking into that very soon to try to give people who have been donating by PayPal another opportunity by credit card or debit card, and but then there's always the e-transfer, or the yeah, if you know me or you can get in touch with me, then we can oh, we got some trolls. I'm gonna just get rid of that troll there. Okay. Thank you again, everyone. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, protect you from all evil, and bring you to everlasting life. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace, live in the truth, live free. Thanks for tuning in.